3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, the Bad Pennies are back again. I'm Sho, and this is my friend Alan, and we're going to continue talking about moving to a new step in your life. We're at the end of 1 year, getting ready for the next year, and where we stopped and where we're going to continue on right now is the lines you're not willing to cross.
Yeah, the integrity line.
Integrity.
So I guess we'll start out. We'll just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll start out with a definition. Or several definitions, because again, we bat around these words and we want them to actually mean something. So when we talk about not crossing a line, or maintaining your standards or your code of life, and being honorable, the word integrity comes up around that. Maintaining integrity. So here's the definition in the Dictionary for Men. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles.
Okay.
The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Number two, we probably lost half of them right now. Number two, moral uprightness. Moral uprightness.
Yeah.
Definition number three, a person's high artistic standards or standards of doing their job as related to their determination not to lower those standards. In other words, a line that you won't cross again, right? A firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values.
Yeah.
Incorruptibility or soundness.
Okay.
So integrity is all about your incorruptibility, about your own personal moral code or standards.
Yeah. So we're bringing this up now for those of you that for some reason didn't watch the previous episode. We're talking about.
But you should go watch it.
Yeah, you should. We're talking about setting up a battle plan for your future.
Yeah, plan of action.
The plan of action for the next part of your life. And we talked about worthiness, about yourself being worthy, and we also talked about whether or not certain things in your life are worth the battle. Right? So, and that brings us to the lines that you won't cross. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to not do in order to get the things that you want?
Right.
In order to be the place that you want to be at in your life.
And it also comes down to the kind of people that you choose to have in your life as well. Because if you hang out with people that have no integrity, they're going to
cross those lines that you won't cross.
They're going to cross those lines, and they're going to pull you down. They're going to want to pull you down with them.
Yeah.
That's how this works, by the way. And or your boss tells you to do something, and you know that it's against the law or a violation or a moral ethic. Do you do it anyway? Do you violate yourself, or do you stand up for yourself?
Yeah,
and
I think it is a measure of your manhood. Is what is it that you will and will not do?
Will not do, that you know where the line is. And the problem for a lot of men is that they don't know where the line is. They've never even thought about it, where the line is. And so if you're not clear where the line is, then how do you know when you've crossed it?
Yeah.
Or when you've crossed it too far, and it's difficult to come back. So
to me, that's a point of regret right there.
Well, that's where a lot of regret comes from, is that you've crossed the line and violated your integrity. Right? And so look, we left off the last podcast talking about being worthy and honoring your life, as a man, that your existence in the world, right? And your life force is precious and special and different in many ways, because we're all individuals, and yet we have so many common things. Especially, with men, we have a lot of what we value is often the same.
Okay.
Man to man all over the world. So we have a lot of commonality, even with the differences and cultural differences and things like that. But our life force, who we are, is valuable, and a lot of people value themselves enough to really see that and to know that standing up for yourself and especially your moral principles is a noble cause.
Yeah.
It's an honorable and worthy and noble way of being. But until you know where the line is that you can't cross, I can do anything up to this point, and after that's the line. All right, and go. I cannot cross that line. I used to, in teaching this in some of the past trainings and stuff that I've done, I bring up the Alamo.
The Alamo.
Yes, process. All right. So a line was drawn, and men that weren't willing to stay and fight, the men that wanted to, I think the way they did it is that if you wanted to stay and fight, you stepped over the line. Okay. So it's kind of a reverse of what we're talking about, but it's still the principle's the same.
Well, there's some people that didn't cross the line. One didn't cross the line.
Yeah, one, and but they didn't have the women, and there were women and children there too. Right?
Oh, okay.
And they tried to get some of them out. They didn't get everybody out, but when there was still a possibility, because the truth of their situation was that if you weren't going to stay and fight, getting past the enemy lines was also going to be difficult and possibly treacherous.
Okay.
But if you did cross the line, if you did step over, you knew that your life was pretty much forfeit at that point. Everyone knew they were outnumbered.
But it's a battle that's worthy of your life.
Well, that was it. They made the assessment that this was they were willing. They knew where the line was.
Yeah.
All right. They knew where the line was with their honor and what was valuable to them, what their values were.
Yeah.
Their moral code.
Okay.
All right. So they
good example.
And that's a very masculine way of being, by the way. I think it's for when we talk about men these days, we're talking about how to be a good man. We're talking about being a good man. And I don't know whether men think about in terms of being good men as much anymore. And but I do. And I do it in my teachings all the time about what does it mean to be a good man, and what is the value to the world of being a good man, and what is the result if we're not? If we choose not to be good men, then what is the result? And can we live with that? And I found years ago that wasn't something that I could personally live with. Even though that underneath, we all have thoughts and desires that wouldn't actually be fitting of a good man, it doesn't mean you act on them.
Okay.
All right. Acting on them is what causes you to go over that line. Okay. That's another line that men will cross.
Right.
Because they haven't assessed where the line is that they won't cross.
Yeah.
They haven't taken that time and thought. And all of this requires thought. You can't just nobody's going to hand it to you. You've got to stop and think about this stuff and decide, who am I? Who am I? And in terms of honor and standards and integrity, principles, disciplines, and most men don't really want to think about that stuff because you got to stop for a while and really take a look at it. We just like doing shit. We just want to go out there and do stuff, and chase around whatever, chase around money and chase around women or chase around success, whatever. We just like running around doing stuff. And in order to come to grips with these kinds of principles, you're going to have to stop and take some time. And good men have always done that.
Okay.
Good men do that. In fact, good men do that regularly. They don't just stop once a year.
At the end of the year.
They do it sometimes daily. Or weekly, at least monthly, right? Where you stop and take a look at, go back to the other podcast, by the way, go back to end of the year podcast where you're assessing the results that you produced for the year and where you want to go from there. Right. Take a look at that one, because that'll set you up for this one. But when you're assessing, it's not like a 1 year deal. Or in that podcast, we're talking about doing one big, year-end thing to take a look at how you did, what you produced, where you want to go from now. Do you want to change things, all of that kind of stuff. But what we're talking about now is that daily discipline or weekly discipline of assessing how you're doing on a much more immediate scale.
Okay.
Right, from moment to moment to moment to moment.
Yeah.
And am I being who I have chosen to be? Am I being the man that I've decided that I want to be? That I, or at least moving toward being that man? And what are the things that I need to be that man?
Okay.
Right. And again, when we were talking about the line, knowing where the line is. The line that you can't, that your principles and your morals and your disciplines and what's right, what's really right for you, that you won't cross. You can't, because if you cross it, you've violated you at its deepest level.
If you cross it, you violated
violated you. You violated the most personal thing that you can violate, which is yourself. And today, so many men in my experience are just unconscious to that. They don't even know that they're violating it until, and it keeps building up. They keep violating more and more and more, and the pain, and they just push it down, and the more. And the next thing you know, they're abusive and angry and out of control and emotional and all of these things that are not good for a man to be, and impossible for a good man to be, because you can't be a good man when you're out of control like that, when you've been violating yourself and your integrity again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a moment to stop and draw the line. Figure out where the line is. Know where it is. Even talk about it with your buddies, about where their line is. Maybe they've never even thought about it.
Yeah.
And help each other. You can, this is something that actually men can do together. So much of what we do, we do alone. We had, oh, by the way, go watch our Lone Wolf podcast. We did a whole podcast on, being a lone wolf or being in a pack.
Yeah.
And the answer is both. All right. The answer is both. There are times where you're the lone wolf, and there's the time you got to be part of a pack. And so you need both of them. Otherwise, you don't survive well. If you're just in a pack, then there's a lot of life you don't get accomplished. If you're just a lone wolf, then you're going to probably fail being alone. Okay. So your pack helps you succeed, right? Yeah. But a pack, if you're only doing pack, then it's holding you back from accomplishing your personal goals. So you want to have the pack, and you want to be the lone wolf, and that they two work hand in hand, and you don't want to overindulge in either one of them. But a lot of the work that you do outside the pack, but the pack gives you what you need to do, the skills, and sharpens your support, and sharpens your helps you sharpen your tools to survive.
Okay.
When you're not in the pack, when you're away from the pack, right? Yeah. You want to be able to survive. You want to be successful, and those kinds of things. And the pack gives you the foundation to be able to do that. Okay. So that was a quick review, because we did a whole podcast on this. You should go look at it. So what else do we need to talk about the line?
I don't know. I think that.
Do you know where your line is?
Oh yeah, I do. For me, it's all about not selling out. Integrity is a big part of my line, and what I'm willing to do to protect my family. I mean, that line it's
a really solid line. Yeah.
It's solid, yeah.
Really strong line.
My faith, that doesn't get compromised whatsoever. As far as if they were about, if it comes down to money, you know, am I willing to do things for money? Absolutely not. Money's not that important to me. My integrity matters more.
Right, but because, you know, and I don't know, have we done a podcast on money?
Nope.
We haven't. Oh, well, we're going to do one. So here's another reason to look forward to next year. We'll do a podcast on money. Money's important,
but it's not more important than my integrity.
It's not more important than your integrity. It's not more important than a lot of things in life, and a lot of people make it the most important thing. But the truth is that if you sell your integrity for the money, you know, it is, as the proverbial deal with the devil kind of thing.
Selling your soul,
and
selling
again,
out.
that for a good man, that is more than likely crossing the line, which is our subject for today.
Yeah.
But your relationship with money, you know, where that line is, and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and in terms of, again, maintaining your self-worthiness. Mm-hmm. Your integrity, your moral code, you know, all of those things, so that you remain an honorable man. Because here's the thing: if you look at men today on the streets, most of them are looking down in the ground, walking around. They're looking down, and the reason they're looking down, even though they're not aware of it. And again, you could argue with me on that, because this is total conjecture, I suppose. But I think that a big reason that they're looking down is because they are not living an honorable life. Men who live honorable lives don't look down. They look up. They look forward, and they are able to hold their body straight and walk upright and be bold and unapologetic. So, and being honorable comes into play in everything that we do.
Wow.
And being honorable in your marriage, being honorable as a father, being honorable as you know, in your business, whatever that is, whether, you know, as a worker or as a boss or an owner, wherever you find yourself, being honorable in that place has its own set of parameters, right? And you know what they are, and you know when you cross those lines inside, even if you haven't thought about it here. But what we're saying in this podcast is it's time to think. It's time to use your brain and use it for what it's been given to you for. Right, to be able to look at this stuff and make good decisions about who you are and your life's path. Right, because that's again all comes back to your you know, how you're conducting yourself on your life's path. And you know, when at the end of your life, are you going to look back and say, yeah, I was an honorable man, and I never compromised, you know, who I was. I never compromised my integrity.
And at the same time, I accomplished this.
And this is what the results were, and including how you affect, because you know, good men affect people around them in amazing ways.
Yeah,
amazing ways. People are drawn to them. Sometimes they make statues. You know, they honor them with statues. Or at least they used to. I don't know if they do as much anymore. But we can at least metaphorically understand that the kind of men that we would honor are the good men that live honorable lives and know where the line is for themselves, and they didn't cross it. And because they didn't cross it, a couple of things will happen. By the way, I'll just give you a heads up. First place, you will garner respect.
Okay.
People will respect you.
Right.
And you will also garner self-respect.
Yeah.
All right. Which is also important, by the way, respecting yourself. But unfortunately, the other side of that coin is that you will have people that won't like you. Or at least they won't like you for periods of time.
Okay.
All right. But they'll still respect you.
Yeah.
So when you're creating and taking a look at where is the line for you, know that in order to maintain that, you will garner respect, but you won't garner like. You won't garner like because people will bump up against it. And unless you know, and if you conduct yourself how in order to be liked, you will violate that line. You will violate your integrity. And a lot of men do it all the time. They violate because they don't want to be disliked. But who cares? I mean, and again, this is another part of this internal dialogue that you have with yourself. Do you want to live your life being a man who's respected or a man who's liked? And it's very difficult to be liked and respected both.
And that's all about the
if
lines
not
you're
impossible.
not willing to cross, right?
Right.
So know your lines.
Know where the line is, and and hold it no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what, because again, if you compromise it, then all's lost. Both for yourself, because you won't respect yourself, and again, you'll end up being one of those men walking around looking at the ground instead of one of the men walking around standing up, erect, looking people in the eye. In fact, I don't know about you, but it's really difficult for me to trust men that won't look me in the eye.
Of course.
Right? Because there's something wrong. There's something, it always feels like, even if it's not true, men that don't look other men in the eyes, they come across as shifty and untrustworthy, or that they're hiding something.
Yeah. And
when you're telling someone something, look them in the eye.
Yeah, there you go.
I saw this in a movie last night. So
anyway,
and I thought it was just a really, really terrible cliche.
No.
Why did they have to do that?
All right, so know your line, don't cross it, right?
Don't cross it.
There you go.
And nobody's watching but you.
Bad
Nobody's
pennies.
watching. Yeah, so bad pennies. Here we are.
We'll be back.